Okay, let's dive right into this explainer because today we are talking about a total yard transformation. If you've ever looked at your window and just wished for a little more seclusion, a bit more elegance, and a lot more natural beauty, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to show you how to build a magnificent living green wall. I want you to imagine stepping out into your backyard and being completely surrounded by a towering emerald green sanctuary. You're blocking out the street noise, the harsh winds, and yeah, those nosy neighbors. But the best part? You're doing it entirely without the stark, imposing ugliness of a traditional wooden or vinyl fence. We are talking about a living, breathing property line that literally elevates your home's landscape. To pull this off, we're looking at a plant the Latin language beautifully translates as the tree of life. It's the arborvitae, which is the overarching family that the Thuja belongs to. And honestly, that name hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the vibrant, evergreen energy this plant brings to literally any landscape, staying lush and totally dense all year round. So here is our roadmap for today's masterclass. First, we'll officially meet the Thuja. Then we'll help you choose your exact variety, cover the crucial spacing and preparation, walk step-by-step through the planting blueprint, and finally finish up with care and troubleshooting. All right, let's jump into part one, meeting the Thuja. What you need to know is that the Thuja is just incredibly resilient. It's a total multitasker. It gives you this majestic barrier that thrives with surprisingly little maintenance. Get this, some varieties can pack on 3 to 5 feet of growth in a single year. On top of that, they're highly adaptable to all sorts of different soils and naturally act like a fortress against harsh winds and winter snowdrifts. Moving right along to part two, choosing your variety. So let's compare your options. The green giant is, well, exactly that, an absolute monster when it comes to speed. It literally explodes with up to 150 centimeters, or roughly 5 feet, of growth every single year. The Samragd, on the other hand, takes a much slower, more elegant approach. It grows about 20 to 30 centimeters annually, but it keeps this stunning, deep emerald color even in the dead of winter. And then there's the Brabant, which kind of sits right in the middle for growth speed, but it does require a bit more hands-on shaping from you. Really, the whole thing comes down to what you prioritize. If you want low-maintenance elegance and you don't mind waiting a little bit longer for that hedge to fill in, the Smaragd is 100% your go-to. But if you need dense screening power fast, and you don't mind busting out the pruning shears a few times a season, the Brabant is going to form a thick, wide wall much quicker. Okay, part 3, spacing and preparation. 5 to 6 feet. Listen, if you're planting those massive green giants, this number is your absolute golden rule for spacing. Plant them too close, and they'll fiercely compete for nutrients and airflow, which just invites disease. But space them too far apart, and you'll literally be waiting decades for them to touch. 5 to 6 feet is the sweet spot to ensure they eventually lock together into a solid, continuous wall. Now for the actual layout of your screen, you've got 2 main choices. A single row is the standard, and it's totally fine for normal property lines. But a double staggered row, that's a real game changer. You plant them diagonally in a zigzag pattern with a 4 to 6 foot gap between the 2 rows. It creates an impenetrable, super thick fortress of greenery way faster than a single row. But hey, before your shovel even touches the dirt, you've got to check a few critical boxes. First, Thujas are sun lovers. They want at least 6 hours a day. Second, you have to do a drainage test. Dig a 12 by 12 inch hole, fill it with water, and make sure it drains at roughly an inch per hour. If it doesn't, your new trees are just going to drown in boggy soil. And here is a big one. Do not add mineral fertilizers to the hole. You want those roots to naturally reach out and establish themselves in the native soil first. All right, part 4. Let's get into the actual planting blueprint. If you follow these exact steps, you'll have a flawless planting. But there's a massive mistake experts see all the time, right at step 1, planting way too deep. Master gardeners will tell you they've seen entire rows of expensive Thujas slowly suffocate just because the root collar was buried an inch below the surface. You must plant the tree at the exact same depth it was sitting in its nursery pot. Then, halfway through backfilling the soil, stop and absolutely soak the hole with water to eliminate air pockets. Finish filling it in and top it off with a nice thick layer of mulch. Actually, here's a massive pro tip straight from the horticultural experts. If your plant arrives in a plastic container, don't yank it. Lay it on its side and gently slide it out. But if you bought field-dug plants that have their roots wrapped in a jute cloth sack and a wire net, do not rip those off. Plop the whole thing right into the soil. That cloth and wire will safely decompose underground over a few years, and trying to remove them is just going to shatter the delicate root ball. Okay, moving into part 5, care and troubleshooting.
Listen, the absolute most common reason a newly planted tree dies is just a lack of water. It's really that simple. So here's how you transition them from delicate newcomers to totally drought-tolerant sentinels. For the first 2 to 3 months, you need to be out there watering them deeply every day or two. Once they're fully established, they become incredibly tough and usually only need about an inch of water every week to 10 days.
Now, if you do decide to prune your hedge, which, by the way, is best done in the early spring, you have to remember this unbreakable rule. Thujas do not sprout new growth from old, bare wood. If you cut too deep, past the green foliage and down to a bare brown branch, that green is never growing back. You'll be left with a permanent, ugly bald spot right in the middle of your beautiful wall. Now, even with the best care, stuff happens. So don't panic if you see a little browning right after planting. It's usually just transplant shock. Just check your soil moisture, make sure you aren't overwatering or underwatering, and hold off on any fertilizer. Also, keep an eye out for hungry deer. The green giant is wonderfully deer resistant, but the smaragd and brabant might look like an all-you-can-eat buffet to them. Oh, and don't forget winter watering. If there's a warm winter thaw and the ground is dry, give them a good drink so their roots don't dehydrate in the cold.
Let's wrap this up with our final takeaways. Before you grab your shovel and head out to the yard, please just keep in mind that the blueprint we covered today is based on general gardening principles. You should always check with your local nursery or a horticultural expert to tailor this advice to your neighborhood's unique soil profile and microclimate. And of course, make sure to double-check any local property line regulations.
So, armed with all the tools from this masterclass, the only thing left is for you to decide. Are you going to plant the elegant emerald smaragd, or are you going to unleash the rapid, towering power of the green giant to build your perfect living privacy screen? It's time to get out there and start planning your sanctuary.